Welcome to Gemara Journey with Rashi. We are in Masecht Berachot in Daf Chet Amud Bet. That's page 8, side 2. We started speaking about in the previous class of the importance of doing Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. We started speaking about that every single week a person has an obligation to finish the weekly parsha with the congregation. And we explained on top, anybody's going to complete the weekly parsha with the congregation. What is his reward? They're going to lengthen his days and his years. Rabotai, everybody wants a sugulot. Everybody's looking for sugulot. They'll go to the graves of the tzaddikim. They'll fly out to big rabbis. They'll do anything. Comes the Gemara promises you over here, anybody who's going to finish, anybody who's going to complete the weekly parsha with the congregation is going to lengthen your days and your years. I want to ask you a question before we continue. When a person does not, when a person does not do Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum, correct? What are you saying to Hashem? Exactly, what are you telling Hashem? I don't believe in this teaching. Why? Because had you believed in this teaching, you would have done it. I asked a few people, religious people, people that said to learn Torah, correct? You do Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum? They told me no. I said, why not? It says it's Bittul Torah. I told them it's Bittul Torah. How did you get that it's Bittul Torah? He's like, look, I don't understand what it says. It's Bittul Torah. So I said, 1 second, I don't understand. The Shulchan Aruch clearly paskins halacha. It's halacha in the Shulchan Aruch that you are obligated to do it. Let me see if I could find it right here. 1 second. Let's see if we could get it together. Let's see, Shulchan Aruch. Let's go over here. Orach Chaim. No, 2, no. Resh Pei, hey guys, 1 second, 285. Halacha Aleph. Right there. Likro Parsha Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. Right, to recite the Shnai Mikra ve'echad the Targum. There are 7 halachot over here. Let's see what the Shulchan Aruch states. Even though a person listens to the whole Torah every single week with the congregation, what does he say right over here? Rabotai, what does he say right over here? Chayav, the Shulchan Aruch uses the language Chayav likrot la'atzmo B'chol shavua parshat oto shavua Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum. You are obligated to read the weekly parsha Shnai Mikra ve'echad Targum, 2 times the verse and 1 time the Targum, the translation, the Unkelus. Now, Rabotai, you have to understand this is a very big problem. How do you learn Torah and not do what it says? You might tell me, Rabbi, it's hard. That's what they actually told me. So, Rabbi, it's a lot of time. It's Mamad. They told me it's Bittul Torah. I said, number one, how's it Bittul Torah? By you saying every single word, that's the words of Torah. That's 630 mitzvot, number 1. Number 2, start learning the Mefarshim, start learning the translation. What do you want me to tell you? But Rabotai, I want to ask you a question. If it says over here Chayav, right? It says over here Chayav, you are obligated. So do you want to tell me somehow we are better than the Shulchan Aruch? You want to tell me that we know better than Rabbi Yosef Karo? Rabotai, do you understand? If a person right now tells me that this halacha is not for me, Chazal tell us, Mumar ledavar echad, mumar lekol Torah kula. Anybody who denies one halacha, even a halacha from the rabbis, like muktzah, right? You see this pen over here? You want to go move it on Shabbat, right? You want to move it and pick it up for no reason. The rabbi says, it's asur, it's muktzah. Don't worry me, how bad could it be? The rabbis made it, right? Rabotai, you are mumar. That's a very, very big problem. You're not allowed to do it. If the Shulchan Aruch says something we have to do, we have an obligation to do it. Chacham Ovadi in the Sefer Chazon Ovadi goes on to bring a many poskim that say even if you have 200 greatest rabbis go against the Shulchan Aruch and are going to tell you you're not obligated to do it, you have no one to rely on. You have no one to rely on. Why? Because the Shulchan Aruch said, Chayav, you have to do it, you have to do it. We accepted the Shulchan Aruch with all his stringencies and with all his leniencies. And this, Rabotai, is a very big problem. This is a very big problem. I spoke about this in the shul, where a lot of people don't do it at all. That means they don't believe, Rabotai, they don't believe in what Chazal promised us. We don't believe. You want to tell me otherwise, you can tell me whatever you want, but we don't believe. If you believe something's going to give you a long life, you're going to get up and you're going to do it. Now you might tell me, Rabbi, it's very hard to do it because it might take you 45 minutes to an hour. Good, that's what it takes me also, depending on the length of the parsha. So I explained to them, I said, listen, you could break it down. Break it down every single day. Say Sunday, you read Rishon, the first Aliyah. Monday, the second. Tuesday, the third. Wednesday, the fourth. Thursday, the fifth. Friday, the sixth. Shabbat, the Saturday, the seventh day, you finished. Give yourself 15 minutes a day. Stop wasting your time on the phone. You'll be able to do it. But Rabotai, understand what you are missing out on. Rabotai, if tomorrow something should happen and if the life is shortened, don't look where, why, what did I do, what happened. It says over here, Rabotai, Chazal tell us it's a guarantee in the Torah. Anybody who completes the parsha with the congregation, they're going to increase his days and his years, Rabotai. I'm not making that up. It's right there in the Torah. So this is what we spoke about in the previous class. Continues the Gemara today. Rav Bevai bar Abaye Savar, Rav Bevai, the son of Abaye, he thought, La'ashaluminu leparshi'ata dikula shaita b'ma'alei yom dikippura. He thought to complete the parshiot of the whole year on Erev Yom Kippur. Tanale Chiyah bar Rav midifti. Chiyah, the son of Rav from Difti, taught this verse to Rav Beve bar Abaye. Says, one second, Ketiv, it's written in the Torah, V'initem ed nafshotochem, you need to afflict your souls, but tish'i lechodesh, on the 9th of the month, Be'erev, in the evening. So we're going to see what Chiyah bar Rav is really telling Rav Bevai, the son of Abaye. He's telling him, one second, how do you want to go ahead and do the yearly parashiyot in one shot on Erev Yom Kippur, where there's a clear pasuk in the Torah that says you have to afflict yourself on the 9th of Tishrei in the evening? So we're going to see this question a little bit better right now. The Gemara says, one second, one second, do we fast on the 9th? But isn't it true we fast on the 10th? So how can you tell me over here in the pasuk, v'initem ed nafshotechem b'tisha lachodesh ba'erev? What do you mean b'tisha lachodesh ba'erev? What does that mean? How can you fast on the 9th of the month? We know we have to fast on the 10th of the month. Answers the Gemara, Elo lomar lach, rather to say to you, rather, what is this pasuk coming to teach us? Kol ha'ochel v'shoteh batish'i, anybody who eats and drinks on the 9th of Tishrei, ma'aleh alav hakatuv, this verse of v'initem ed nafshotechem b'tisha lachodesh ba'erev, this verse attributes on him ki ilu mit'aneh tish'i v'aseri. It's as if you had fasted on the 9th of Tishrei and the 10th of Tishrei. Rashi says, Maleh alav hakatuv chulu, that the pasuk attributes to you, etc. V'hachi ka'amur kran. This is what the verse was saying. Hichinu atzmichem, prepare yourselves, b'tish'a lachodesh, on the 9th of the month, meaning on the 9th of Tishrei. How do you prepare yourself? With food and drink, by eating a lot of food and having a lot of, or plenty of water. What are you preparing for? Li'inui ha'mecharat, for the affliction of the following day, for tomorrow, which is the 10th of Tishrei. Ve'harehu be'ena, and that's going to be in my eyes, Hashem says, Ki'inu hayom, it's as if you afflicted yourself today. It's as if you fasted on the 9th. This is what the verse is coming to teach us over here. When it says over here, it's not really saying that you should go and afflict yourselves on the 9th of the month in the evening. What it's saying is that if you're going to eat and drink on the 9th of Tishrei, Hashem says, I'm going to give you credit as if you had fasted on that day. That's what he says. But now we have to come back to our original attack on Rav Bevi, the son of Abaye. When Rav Bevi, the son of Abaye, decided to complete the whole parsha of the whole year on Erev Yom Kippur, came Chiyah, the son of Rav, and he told him, 1 second, I don't understand. You have a mitzvah to eat. You have a mitzvah to drink. So how in the world are you going to go ahead and you're going to be busy and occupied with completing the whole Torah on Erev Yom Kippur? So that is a very good attack on Rav Bevi bar Abaye. So now that that was stated, so Rav Bevi bar Abaye is going to think of a different plan. Continues the Gemara says, Savar la'akoduminhu. So you know what he thought? Rav Bevi bar Abaye said like this, fine, you're right. I cannot do it on Erev Yom Kippur. Fine. Why? Because I really have a mitzvah. There's an open verse in the Torah. So you know what he said? Let me do the parshiot earlier. Let me do it earlier. Look what Rashi says. La'akadu minhu, l'sader kol parshiyot, to arrange all the parshiyot, b'shabbat achat, on one Shabbat, or b'shtei Shabbatot, or with 2 Shabbatot. But let me do, you know how they say, get it out of the way in one bulk? Let me go ahead and get it out of the way in one shot, and that's it. I never have to worry about it again. Amrli hahu Saba, that elderly man said to Rav Bevi bar Abaye, Tanina, 1 second, we learned, as long as you do not do it earlier than the congregation, and you shouldn't postpone it after the congregation. The mitzvah is to do the weekly parsha with the congregation. Whatever parsha is that week, that's what you have to do with the congregation. You shouldn't do it earlier, and you should not do it later. Like, it's like Rabbi Shua, the son of Levi, said to his children, complete your parshiyot with the congregation, 2 times the verse and 1 time the translation, the unkelus. Now, another thing Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said to his children, and he said like this, Vizharu bivardin ke Rabbi Yehuda. You should be careful with the veins like Rabbi Yehuda. What does this mean? That not like was taught in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, whenever you slaughter an animal, we're going to see in Rashi is going to say specifically a chicken because they used to roast it whole. But whenever you're going to slaughter, let's say in this case the chicken, Rashi is going to tell us you want to make sure that you cut completely the veins. Why do you want to be careful when you're cutting the veins? Because you want to be able to have all the blood come out. So watch this. Ditnan, like was taught in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda said, until you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut the veins. So Rashi explains, until you're going to cut the veins. Why do you have to be careful? Until you cut, the veins very well. In order for all the blood to come out. When Rabbi Yehuda said this teaching, he only said it in regards to a bird or a chicken. Since they went ahead and they roasted it like one, they never cut it into pieces. So therefore, if you want all the blood to come out, be careful when it comes to the veins, that when you slaughter it, make sure you cut all the veins, so this way all the blood is going to come out and you're not going to have to worry about blood getting stuck inside the animal. And then Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi also taught something else to his children, and he said, Vizaharu bizaken, be careful with an elderly person, sheshachach talmudo, that forgot his learning Torah, machmat onso, because of coercion. What does that mean? Machmat onso, Rashi says, shechala, either he became sick, that's why he forgot his learning Torah, or shenitrat bedochag mizonot, or he was, occupied because of Parnasa. He didn't have enough Parnasa, so he was preoccupied with Parnasa. And since a person is preoccupied with Parnasa, he's not able to review his learning. You're not able to review your learning. You're going to forget your learning Torah. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was telling his children, Hizharu bo lichbado. Be careful with him to honor him. Give him the proper respect. So back into the Gemara. The Gemara said, Vizharu bezaken sheshachat talmudo machmot onso. Be careful with an elderly person that forgot his learning Torah because of coercion. The amrinim, because it stated, luchot v'shibri luchot, the luchot, the tablets that were given to Moshe Rabbeinu, and v'shibri luchot, and the broken tablets that were given to Moshe Rabbeinu, munochot ba'aron, they are placed in the Aron HaKodesh. So if the luchot, the tablets, which are the good ones, and the shivri luchot, and the tablets, the first ones which broke, if they're placed in the Aron, we see we have an obligation to go ahead and make sure that we give people honor that forgot their learning Torah because of force, either because they were sick or either because they had to work because they did not have enough parnasa to be able to live. Rashi says, Shibrei luchot munuchot ba'aron, that the broken tablets were placed in the Aron HaKodesh. How do we know? Dichti, because it's written in the pasuk, Asher shibarta v'samta ba'aron, that which you broke and you placed it in the Aron. Av hashibarim tasim baron, meaning to say over here that even the broken tablets you should place it in the Aron HaKodesh. Okay, now Rabotai, before we do continue, let's just see this one more time with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So we said over here, Kida Amar Lehu Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi lebenei, right? When the elderly person came and he wanted to prove to Rabbi bar Abaye, you should not say the weekly parsha prior to the week, or you shouldn't say the weekly parsha after the week of the parsha that it's finished, but rather you want to try to do it with the congregation. So he tells us it's like the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Like Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Levi, said to his children. So he said to him three advices. Number one, he told his children, complete the weekly parsha with the congregation, and then he told them the second teaching, be careful with the veins, specifically of a chicken, like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that not like was taught in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, until you cut the veins. And we explained why. Because since they roasted the chicken whole, we want to make sure that all the blood comes out, so we want to make sure that he cuts all the veins. Another teaching, the third one, what he told his children is, and this is very important, Vizharhu bezaken sheshachach talmudu machmot onso. Be careful with an elderly person that forgot his learning Torah, which is against his will, because he was forced to forget it. Like Rashi said, either he became sick, or either he was preoccupied for providing for his family, and he was not able to review. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tells his children, be careful with them. Rabotai, if you make an inference, if you make a diuk from this language, where he says, Vizharu bezaken sheshachach talmud machmad onso, you only have to be careful with an elderly person that forgot his learning because he was forced to forget it. But what happens if you have a person that just doesn't review? Let's say initially he was a Talmud Chacham, right? Big rabbi, whatever it might be, but he doesn't review, he's all day busy. Who knows what he's doing, wasting his life away. He's never reviewing. Now as he becomes older, do you have an obligation to honor him? Absolutely not. He can wear a nice black hat, doesn't mean nothing. You are only obligated to honor people that forgot their learning Torah against their will. Not that they themselves caused them to forget their learning Torah. In Pirkei Avot it says, Kol ha-shochech talmudo chayav mita. Anybody who forgets his learning Torah is liable to death. Over there it goes on to explain that means to say that if you don't review your learning, you're liable to death. So how do we know that you have to be careful with an elderly person that forgot his learning because it was against his will? Not that something that he did intentionally. Because we said, because we explained the tablets and the broken tablets, meaning the second tablets and the first tablets, they were placed in the Aron. Why did you place the broken tablets into the Aron? because you wanted to give them honor. If you're going to give honor to the broken tablets, so too you have to go ahead and you have to give honor to a Talmud Chacham that forgot his learning when it's only against his will. Now, Rabotai, we're going to begin a new teaching where Rava, he gave advice to his children. Amar lahu Rava libnei. Rava said to his children, Ki sha'atem hudchim basar, when you guys are cutting the meat, al tachtichu al gav hayad, do not cut on top of your hand. Do not take a piece of meat. Let's say, for example, this is a piece of meat. Do not take a piece of meat, put it on your hand, and then take a knife and start cutting it on your hand. That you should not do. Whenever you are cutting the meat, do not cut it on top of your hand. Some say mishum sakana. Some say, why shouldn't you cut it on top of your hand? Because of danger. Rashi says, what's the danger? Mishum sakana shelo yikotz yado. In order for you not to cut your hand. That's why we don't want you to cut meat with a knife on your hand. You know, if you ever pay attention, if you have a very, very sharp knife, and you try to cut something, all you got to do is push a little bit, and it cuts. Chas v'shalom lo aleinu. You could lose your fingers, if not your hand. Chas v'shalom. It is very, very dangerous. So that's what he says here. Some say the reason why Rava gave this advice to his children that when you're cutting the meat, do not cut it on top of your hand because of danger, meaning you shouldn't cut your hand. Some say no, the reason, another reason. There are those that say like this, Mishum kilkul suda, because you're going to ruin the meal. How are you going to ruin the meal? It's very simple logic. Rashi says, Mishum kilkul suda, because you're going to ruin the meal. Av bechabura ketana, even with a small wound. Let's say you're cutting the meat on your hand, and now you cut yourself even with a little bit of blood. Yetzeh adam, the blood is going to come out. V'lichlachach et ha'ma'achal, and it's going to make the food dirty. V'yama'is et ha'misubim, and the misubim, the people that are sitting with you or reclining with you on the table, they're going to become disgusted by it. So there you go, you just ruined the whole meal. So that's why it's very important not to cut the meat on top of your hand. So let's see this one more time. Amar lahu Rava libnei. Rava said to his children, Kishatem hotchim basar, when you're cutting the meat, al tichtuchu al gav hayad, do not cut it on top of your hand. Ikad de amri, some say mishum sakana, because of sakana that you might cut your hand, literally cut your whole hand, chas v'shalom. Vikad de amri, some want to say mishum kilkul suda, because you're going to ruin the meal. How? By a small cut on your hand, which is going to become a wound, blood is going to come out, it's going to make the food dirty, and people are going to become disgusted by it. Now Rava is going to continue to give his children another piece of advice. The Gemara says, Ve'al tishvu al mitat Aramit, and do not sit on the bed of an Armenian woman. Ve'al ta'aviru achorei Beit HaKnesset, and also do not pass behind a Beit HaKnesset b'sha'ah she'tzibur mitpalalim, at the time when the congregation is praying. Now the Gemara is going to go on and to explain these two advices that Rava gave to his children. When it says Ve'al tishvu al mitat Aramit, that when he told his boys, do not sit on the bed of an Armenian woman, what does that mean? Ikad de amri, there are those that say, Lo tignu belo kriyat shema. Some want to learn what Rava was really telling his children, do not go to sleep without first reciting Kriyat Shema. Now if we look into Rashi, very scary Rashi by the way, Rashi says, if a person who goes to sleep without Kriyat Shema, you know what you do? Comes out like this, Shetihem mitatcha doma limitat Aramit. He says over here that your bed is similar to the bed of an Armenian woman. Rabotai, what makes a Jewish person's bed a Jewish bed is when you say Kriyat Shema at night. But if you don't say Kriyat Shema at night, he says over here, when a person doesn't say Kriyat Shema, it comes out that his bed is comparable to that bed of an Armenian woman. Now, Rabotai, over here, it says, it's very interesting, over here it just says Goya. I mean, it's the same thing, but says over here, goya. It doesn't even say goy. It says that it's as if your bed is comparable to a non-Jewish woman's bed. Let me read for you over here. He says like this. If a person does not read Kriya Shema at night, he says, you know what happens? It's going to come out that your bed is going to be doma, comparable or similar, lemitat goya, to the bed of a non-Jewish girl. It doesn't even say goy, at least tell me a goy. Comes out that if a person does not say Kriya Shema at night, comes out that he's sleeping on a non-Jewish girl's bed. And that's what Rabbah was really telling his children. When he says over here, when he taught over here in the beginning, do not sit on an Armenian woman's bed, what he really was saying was like this. Do not go to sleep without Kriya Shema. That's another halakha, Rabotai, which is a very important halakha, that every single Jew, even children, they must say Kriya Shema ala mitah. You must say Kriya Shema before you go to sleep. That is your protection. So we see from over here, Rabotai, very, very important concept. How critical it is for us to recite Kriya Shema. If we don't recite Kriya Shema, Rabotai, look what Rashi says. One who doesn't recite Kriya Shema before going to sleep, his bed is comparable to the bed of a non-Jewish woman. So basically, you're not sleeping on a Jewish bed, you're sleeping on a non-Jewish woman's bed. There are those that say, you know what he really meant when he said, he says like this, he was saying really, do not marry and convert. That's what he was really saying. When Rabbah was giving another opinion holds that this is what Rabbah was really advising his children. Whenever Rabbah said to his children, do not sit on an Armenian's bed, what he really was saying to his boys, do not marry converts. That's what he was telling them. And the third opinion says, do you know what he really was telling them? No, he's teaching them as the simple understanding. What does it say? It says clearly, do not sit on an Armenian's bed. And the other opinions say, you know what it means, Armenian's bed? Aramid mamash, a real, literally, do not sit on an Armenian's bed. That's all he was really saying. Rashi says, what does it mean, Aramid mamash? Al-mitat Aramid, do not sit on the bed of an Armenian woman. That's all. That's all he was telling them. So about that, we do have three opinions. When Rabbah gave the second advice that Rabbah was giving his children, which is not to sit on the bed of an Armenian woman, what did he mean? According to one opinion, what he was really saying was, do not go to sleep without Kriya Shema. If you go to sleep without Kriya Shema, it's as if you are sleeping on a Goyish woman's bed. It's not a Jewish bed, it's a Goyish woman's bed. Number two, someone will learn what Rabbah was really telling his children, do not marry converts. Number three, the opinion says no. When it says Aramit, the bed of an Armenian woman, it literally says, it's the way it means. Do not sit on the bed of an Armenian woman. That's it. Okay, Rabotai, so that's that. Now, why is this so important? What happened? Why did Rabbah go ahead and, how do you give, you could tell your children, don't have relations, don't smoke, don't drink, but to sit on a girl's bed, on an Armenian woman's bed, what's so proud? What's a big deal? So he says, Umishum Mased Rav Papa, because of the story that happened to Rav Papa. The Rav Papa Azel Legabe Aramid, because Rav Papa, he went to an Armenian woman, Hotzia lo mitah, she brought out a bed for him, Amra lo, she said to him, Shev, sit down. Well, what's wrong, right? She tells you, sit down, you're going to sit down, no? Amar la, Rabotai, listen what Rav Papa said to her. Trust no one, Rabotai. Amar la, especially these people, yeah? Amar la, he said to her, any Yoshev, I will not sit down, until you're going to pick up the bed. He said, I'm not sitting down. When she lifted the bed, they found over there a child who was dead. Mikan amru chachamim. From here, the rabbis of blessed memory learn from this one story, asur l'shev al mitat aramit. It is forbidden for a person to sit on a non-Jewish woman's bed. Rabotai, this is it. You understand how it works. You understand how chachamim make fences. We think today it's a joke. We think everything's a joke. Rabotai, It's for our own benefit that the Chachamim made these fences. Rashi says, Masecht Rav Papa, the story with Rav Papa. So he tells you over here, Sha'amra lo shev al hamita. She told him, sit on the bed. V'haya bana met. But she had a dead child, mutal aleha, which was placed on it. She wanted to plot against him. She wanted to plot against Rav Papa and say that he sat on the child and he killed him. But Rabotai, look with Rav Papa, Rabotai, look at the Chachamim. They're smart. They don't fall in for everything. They don't believe anything. They're not naive. He said, pick up the bed. And that's what Rabotai, that's the whole story with Rav Papa. But that's why Rava was telling his children, why? Because of the story with Rav Papa. Rabotai, you could see clearly from this teaching, what does it mean when you see yourself, chas v'shalom, if you see yourself doing X, Y, and Z, and you see you're falling in this X, Y, and Z, you have to make yourself boundaries. You have to make yourself boundaries so you don't come to it again. But not Rabotai. Some people tell me the same story every single day, in, day out. Rabbi, again I fell. Rabbi, again I fell. Rabbi, again. Did you do anything different? No, Rabbi, I tried. No, you didn't try. Had you tried, it would have been different. In any event, Rabotai, you see over here, from one story, what the Chachamim got out of their way to protect the Jewish people. You have to be able to protect yourself from the outside world, Rabotai. If you see you're falling, I don't know, you know, I don't know, Rabotai, I don't know, by watching movies, pornography, spilling semen in vain, you gotta take the proper precautions not to do it. It's asur, Rabotai, it's asur. There's nobody's gonna tell you allowed to do it. I don't know, Rabotai, I don't know how people do it, how they ignore the Torah. That's not up to me to decide, it's not up to me to judge. But what I am here to tell you is, we need to take the proper precaution. We need to follow the Torah. We need to follow our Chachamim. We need to follow what the Shulchan Aruch says, and not what everybody else does. Today, the world is hefker. You know, the world is ownerless. Everybody does whatever they want. Everybody says whatever they want to say. Nobody understands the repercussions that each one is going to face at the Yom Adin, and that's very sad. That is very sad. Rabotai, we don't have to learn from them. We have to learn what our Torah teaches us. That's all. Okay. We also stated that Rava said to his children, he advised them also, right? That's what he told them. Do not pass behind a synagogue at the time when the congregation is praying. So now the Gemara says, let's say that this teaching of Rava is a support to Rabbi Shua, the son of Levi. The Amr Rabbi Shua ben Levi, because Rabbi Shua, the son of Levi, said, Asur lo la'adam shi'avor achorei beit HaKnesset. Because Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that it is forbidden for a person to pass behind a Beit HaKnesset b'sha'ah she'tzibur mitpalelin, at the time when the congregation is praying. Rashi says, Asur la'avor v'chulu shenireh ki mavriach atzmo mipetach Beit HaKnesset shebemizrach. Because it seems like he's trying to make himself run away from the entrance of the Beit HaKnesset, which was on the eastern side. Now, Rabotai, I want to try to explain this Rashi. When we look at our Beit HaKnesset, right, how do you walk in? You walk in from the back. So that's considered to be the back, correct? But if you pay close attention, in my humble opinion, when you look at the language, he says here, Asur lo adam, sheyavor achorei Beit HaKnesset, that it's forbidden for a person to go behind the Beit HaKnesset at the time when the tzibur is praying. Now, 1 second. Where's the behind of a Beit HaKnesset? The behind where the door is, correct? So Rashi tells you over here that the Beit HaKnesset, the door, the entrance of the Beit HaKnesset was on the eastern side. And that changes everything around. Wherever the door is, that's going to be considered to be the back. So our synagogues today, our doors are all the way in the back, so that's called the back. But back then, their doors were right in the front, in the east, which direction they prayed. That's a problem, Rabotai. If the direction we're praying is the east, and that's where the door is, now when you're passing there, it looks like you want to run away. It looks like you don't want to down with the congregation. That's what he's trying to tell you over here. Asur lavor v'chulu, shenireh ki mavriach atzmo mipetach Beit HaKnesset shebemizrach. It seems that he's trying to make himself run away from the entrance of the Beit HaKnesset, which was on the eastern side. Okay, so basically what do we see from this Gemara right now? When Rava said to his children, Ve'al ta'avaru achorei Beit HaKnesset, do not pass behind a Beit Knesset b'sha'ah shetzibur mitpalalin, at the time when the congregation is praying. So we said that Misai Leil Rabbi Shua ben Levi, it's a support from Rabbi Shua ben Levi. The Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, because Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Asur lo la'adam shi'avor achrei Beit Knesset. It is forbidden for a person to pass behind a Beit Knesset b'sha'ah shetzibur mitpalim, at the time when the congregation is praying. So we see over here that this teaching of Rava to his children is a support for Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Why do we need this support, Rabotai? Very simple. The more Talmidei Chacham, the more Taneim, Amoraim, or even Rishonim, or even Achronim that come and they solidify a halakha, it becomes much more stronger. Okay. Now, Rabotai, we're going to see, Abai is going to tell us, Amar Abai is going to say right now, when is this halakha applicable that you're not allowed to pass behind a Beit Knesset at the time when the congregation is praying? He's going to give you criteria that have to be met. But if those criteria are not met, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to pass. You are going to be allowed to pass. Let's see this inside. Amr Abai said, V'lo amran eila. When did we say this halakha that it is asur for a person to pass before Beit Knesset, meaning behind the Beit Knesset? When is that? Dileika pitcha achrina, when you don't have another entrance. If the only entrance is in the Mizrach, is in the eastern side, and there's no other entrance, you're not allowed to pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time when the congregation is davening. Aval, however, he says, Ika pitcha achrina. However, if you do have another entrance, let lan ba. We don't have this problem of Rabbi Shua ben Levi's halakha. This halakha does not apply. If you know you have an entrance in the Mizrach, and also you have an entrance in the Ma'arav, meaning in the east and in the west, no problem. When I'm passing through the Mizrach and people are davening at that time, how do you know? Maybe I'm going to the west. Maybe I'm going from that entrance. Maybe I don't want to bother you. So therefore he says, when do we say it's asur to pass? When it's only one door, which is in the eastern side. But if you also have another door on the western side, this halakha of Rabbi Shua ben Levi is not going to apply. You're going to be allowed to pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time when they're davening. Continues Abai and he says, when do we say this halakha that you're not allowed to pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time that the congregation is davening? That's when you don't have another Beit Knesset in the vicinity. But if you have another synagogue in the vicinity, let lemba, this halakha of Rabbi Shua ben Levi does not apply. Again, same concept. Because when I'm passing the entrance of the Beit Knesset at the time when they're praying, I'm not, disparaging them. I'm not degrading them. I'm not showing that I don't want to daven. What I'm doing is I'm going to another synagogue. So that's where you're going to be allowed to go ahead and do it. V'lo amran eila delo dare tuna. When do we say this halakha? That one is not allowed to pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time when the congregation is praying. That is specifically delo dare tuna. You're not carrying anything. V'lo rahit, and you're not running. V'lo marach tefillin, and you didn't put on tefillin. Aval, however, ika had mechanich. But if you have one of these things, let's say you're carrying something, or you're running, or you have tefillin on, comes Abai says, let lan ba. We don't have this principle. We don't have to be afraid of the halakha of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, where he says that you're not allowed to pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time when they're davening. That halakha does not apply. On the contrary, if I am carrying something, or if I'm running, or if I have tefillin on, any one of these things will allow me to go behind the Beit Knesset at the time when the congregation is praying. Okay, Rabotai, before we begin the new piece, let me just go back one more time on this. So when we said over here, do not pass behind the Beit Knesset at the time when the congregation is praying, because that's the advice that Rava gave to his children. We say over here, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, it's a support for Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, because Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, that it is forbidden for a person to go behind the Beit Knesset at the time when the tzibur is praying. Amar Abai said, when are we going to say that halakha applies? It's only applicable if you do not have another entrance. But if you do have another entrance, let lanba, that halacha does not apply. And again, when does that halacha apply? That's if you don't have another Beit Knesset. If you don't have another Beit Knesset. But if you do have another Beit Knesset, let lanba, that halacha does not apply. And when do we say that halacha applies? That's as long as you're not carrying anything and you're not running and you don't have tefillin on. We're going to say that halacha applies. But if you have one of these things, if you're carrying something, or if you're running, or if you have tefillin on, we're going to tell you, let lamba, that halacha of Rabbi Shua ben Levi does not apply. Okay, now the Gemara moves on to the teaching of Rabbi Akiva. Tanya, it was taught in the Braita, Amar Rabbi Akiva said, because of three things, because of these three aspects that the Midyanim have, comes Rabbi Akiva, he says, I love them. When they cut the meat, they only cut it on the top of a table. When they kiss, they only kiss on top of the hand. Rashi says, why do they kiss on top of the hand? They would kiss their friend's hand. This is showing importance to the person because of saliva, because of spit. When you're kissing a person on the hand, you're showing them importance because of the spit. So you don't want to kiss them anywhere else. So that's what he says. When they kiss, they only kiss on the hand. He kisses his friend's hand. This is a very important way of kissing on the hand because of the spit. So therefore you show the person importance. Continues the Gemara says, and when they would take counsel, when they would advise, and they would only consult in the field. Rashi says, only in the field. The Amri Inshi, because people say aznaim lekoto, because people say that the walls, they have ears. You ever heard that expression? Walls have ears. Rabotai comes from our Torah. How do we know, Rabotai, that you have to go ahead and you have to consult in the field and not inside the room? Amar Rav Ida bar Ahava, Rav Ida the son of Ahava said, my Kara'ah, what is the verse that's going to prove to us that one should consult in the field and not inside a room? Because the pasuk says, Vayishlach Yaakov Vayikra Rachel u'Leah, and Yaakov sent to call Rachel and Leah, Hasadeh el Tzonot, that they should come to the field to his flocks. Because Rabotai, you have to remember, what's in the field that you don't have in the room? In a room, people can eavesdrop. They can listen to what you're saying. In a field, when you're out in the field, you can look around and see who's next to you, who's not. In a room, you cannot do that. You can have somebody behind the door. You won't be able to pay attention. You can have somebody, put a camera on you. You're not going to know, or voice recorder, or something. But when you go out to the field, you don't have these things. Now we're going to have another teaching by Rabban Gamliel. Tanya was taught in the Braita. Amar Rabban Gamliel said, B'sheloshat devarim ohev ani et ha'persiim. With three things, I love the Persians. There are three things that the Persians do. Rabban Gamliel says, because of that, I love them. Number one, hen tzinu'in ba'achilatan. They're very modest when they eat. Number two, utzinu'in bebeit hakiseh. They're very modest in the bathroom. Number three, utzinu'in bedavar acher. They're also modest in the other thing. Rashi says, what is the other thing? Bedavar acher, Rashi says, tashmish. Having relations. They're very modest when they come to have relations. Rabotai continues the Gemara says, nevertheless, even though Rabban Gamliel loves the Persians because of their modesty level in eating and bathroom and relations, nevertheless, the Gemara says, that's not going to protect them from Gehenom. Watch this. Gemara says, Ani tivit mikudushai. So if we look into Yishai in Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Gimel, Ani tivit mikudushai gam karati giburai la'api alizei ga'avatim. When we go to the back of the book in Sevra Mikraot, if you look into page Yut Bet, The commentary explains to us, what does it mean, Ani Tiviti? So the commentary first begins and he says, Nuvuat al Mapelet Bavel. This is a prophecy on the downfall of Babylon. What does it mean when Hashem says, Ani Tiviti? So he says, Tiviti erati libam. I had steered their heart. I had awakened their heart. Limi Kudushai. Who is the Limi Kudushai over here? So he says, Loshan Hasmana, a language of designation. Hem Pras Umadai, which is Pras and Madai. The kings over there were Koresh Vedaryavish. Shizmantim Lekach, he designated them for that. Sheyavohu v'yadchilu lidgarot beBavel, that they should come and they should incite against Bavel. They should start a war with Bavel. Gam karati gibor, I also called my strong ones. La'api al ze ga'avati. What does it mean la'api? So the commentary says over here, la'asod charon api beBavel, to execute my anger in Bavel. That's what it means la'api, to execute my anger in Bavel. Al ze ga'avati. What does that mean, al ze ga'avati? So the commentary says, Pras umadai hem simchat gu'oti. The Pras, the Persians, and the Madai, the Midianim, they are the pride of my joy. Shani mitpa'er bahem, that I glorify myself with them. That's what Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying. So when we go back over here, Rabotai, when it says Ani tiviti lemikudushai, so we see over here that this is a prophecy to Pras and Madai. So Rashi says b'mapelet Bavel, like we saw, right? This is going on the downfall of Bavel. Kitiv, this is written on the downfall of Bavel. It says over there, Ani tiviti et malchei Pras umadai. I had designated the kings of Pras and Madai, which is Koresh and Daryavish, lavo, to come to Bavel, ulashchita, and to destroy it. Rabotai, nevertheless, listen what the Gemara says. Tani Rav Yosef taught, when you see this pasuk, Ani tiviti lemikudushai, Elu hapirsiim, these are the Persians, hamikudashim, which are consecrated, umuzmanim, which are designated, legehenim, to Gehenim. Rabotai, Rav Yosef is telling us all these modesty levels that they had, that they were tenua with their eating, they were tenua in their bathroom, and they were tenua with relations, all that is not going to save them, Rabotai, from Gehenim. And that's the way he wants to learn the verse. Rabotai, over here is Ram Gamliel, he wants to praise them. He wants to praise the Persians. However, Rabotai, Rav Yosef does not want to praise the Persians. Rav Yosef is saying with all their modesty levels, it's nice that you love them for that, which is beautiful. Nevertheless, he says, the pasuk says, Ani tiviti lemikudushai, like we defined it. Tani Rav Yosef tells you what this pasuk means. It's going on the Persians. Elo Persiim, these are the Persians. Hamikudashim, which are consecrated, umuzmanim, and they're designated legehenom. Meaning to say, Rabotai, their modesty level is not going to help them. Okay.